Hi everyone, welcome back to the Curated Shelf. Good to see you all, and yeah, it's been a really long time since I've posted. So first of all, I'm sorry it took so long. I think 2021 has been more difficult than 2020 for me, which says a lot. Maybe it's the same for some of you out there, but I feel as if the impact of the pandemic and the shutdown and everything has been a lot more stronger as I went into this year than I did actually last year. So that, and I think there's a bit of a wariness. So I think, yeah, it's been a long time. And what happened was that after Christmas, I didn't post for a few weeks, and then it becomes more difficult to go back to something for me anyway. And I felt guilty around February, and then I thought, oh, I shouldn't bother. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Dawn Michelle of Boho Tarot, because she did this fantastic video about May, and it's her birthday month, and she did this great video about what it is like to shoot videos. And then she did a follow-up video to that. And this is Boho Tarot, by the way, if I haven't mentioned it. And in her follow-up video to the video she did about making tarot videos and tarot tube, she actually mentioned that those of us who also do tarot tube to not be disheartened or not think that we have to have it perfect and have it all together before we post videos. And there was something about it that just really encouraged me to come back to this. So anyway, I just want to say thank you to Dawn Michelle, and it's already been 2 minutes into this video. So let's just start off with the topic that I decided to come back with. And that is, as the title of the video says, it's about my tarot books and the books that I began with. And these were bought many years ago. And the reason why I want to share specifically my tarot learner books is because there is so many out there. I mean, these are not the only ones on my shelves. And but I wanted to narrow it down a bit because I think it's important to talk about this topic. So anyway, the 3 books that I'm going to talk about is, first of all, it's Learning the Tarot by Joan Bunning. That's one. This is Cassandra Eason's Complete Book of Tarot. And the other book that I've had is Liz Dean's The Ultimate Guide to Tarot. And I said I'm going to talk about these books, but actually I'm not going to so much talk about them, but I'm going to talk about they're my beginner books and why it's important to have a beginner book. So I'll rephrase that. So I think that when learning the tarot, it's important to have at least, I would suggest 2 to 3 beginner books, is because they in effect become like a reference guide. And it's not so much about which beginner book somebody picks, it's more about picking one and just trying it and using it. And I suggest having 2 or 3 because that will help you to just start the journey. So the reason why I first of all want to just show you the 3 that I have had from the beginning, for I think I've had these now for at least 6-7 years or something like this, some of them. This one came out in 2015, so it's a bit later. I think I picked this up in 2016. I know this book came out in 1998, and it shows its age actually in that sense. And this is a 1998 book, sorry. And then Cassandra Eason's Complete Book of Tarot is 2009, and this is 2015. So yeah, this one I got a few years, just a few years ago, but the other 2 have been there a lot longer. And the reason why I wanted to talk about the beginner book is because as I've been refreshing my tarot journey, there's loads of books. There's, I mean, fantastic authors like Mary Greer and Barbara Moore. Their books are great. If they're your reference books, that's fine too. The reason why I want to talk about it is because there's a huge amount of books, and I love reading them, but sometimes when I'm doing a reading and I'm having to really like go back to a card or just reference something, I need to actually go back to my reference books. I don't necessarily want to go back to a book which has a long-winded historical look at that deck or this card or something. I just really need something that is kind of like very quick and easy for me to look at. So, you know, a book that I use personally quite a bit out of even these three, the one that gets used the most is Learning the Tarot by Joan Bunning. And a really good example is, you know, I might be reading about the moon, and the moon is not like one of my favorite cards, but I just want to really go into quick, what is the real essence of the moon card again? And here she has it very simply laid out. You know, she's got things like action words, she's got things like opposing cards, reinforcing cards, and then just a bit of a kind of like, you know, the take on the moon card. But for me, this is really appealing because it's not over cluttered, it's not a lot of content, but it's really quick and dirty reference to that card. And for me, this is a really good way for me to just go, okay, again, what was that about? And the other thing that I like about this book is that she's kept it very, very simple. So she's got in here, you know, an introduction, then she's got things about like the minor and the major arcana, and then she's got exercises, but she's really kept it very, I'm just trying to find the contents page for you. She's really kept it, so here are the sections. So, you know, she's got, you know, the essentials of tarot, and then she's got things like, and the elements of tarot, then she's got principles, exercises, card descriptions, you know, split into major and minor arcana. She's got a little bit about the spreads, but really she's kept it very, very to the bone, and that's why I think this is a really good book. But this might not be like, you know, your cup of tea, and instead, you know, the other book that I really personally love is Liz Dean's The Ultimate Guide to Tarot. And again, what I like about this book is that, for example, on the Justice card, she's given like really good in-depth look at kind of like, you know, what's the astrological signs linked to justice, and what is it about understanding justice and so forth. And again, you know, this is another book that really gets down to the essence of the cards very, very quickly. She's also got, you know, she's got, of course, all the cards in here, each and every one of them. And she's got a little bit at the back, you know, things like the Kabbalah and other things. But the book, in essence, is like, you know, instead of the little white book that you get in a pack of cards, this really can help just be like a reference guide to any pack of any Rider-Waite-Smith deck, basically, or Rider-Waite-Smith base deck that you have as a learner. So that's one of the things that I wanted to point out about my tarot learner books and why they've become a really good foundation. So if I was to recommend to somebody, if you've got like, let's say you've got 50 quid or whatever your budget is, 20 quid, whatever it is, what are you going to be looking for in a reference book and how to begin? So I've kind of like jotted down some of the things that have helped me when I've been looking at tarot tubers again and thinking, okay, what's the essence here? Is first of all, in a tarot book, to look at language which is simple. And I know that there might be somebody going, why hasn't she mentioned Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, which I do have on the shelf, or why hasn't she mentioned this book or that book or the Thoth Guide and stuff like that? And the reason is because those are fantastic books and I love them, but they're not what I would call personally a reference book, and that's why I keep coming back to those kind of words. I need simple, easy to access language, which is not huge paragraphs. That's the kind of person I am. Perhaps, you know, I will look at something like this very, very quickly. I want paragraphs that I can access very quickly because my focus is the cards. It's not the book. I'm not sitting in bed reading a novel, even though sometimes I read these books like that. But I know I'm not sitting at home reading a novel. What I am doing, and I'm going to grab now a tarot deck for you. For me, what's important if I'm kind of like really learning or brushing up or just I want to clean my palette and just go back to the basics. What I'm looking at is just, you know, I'm looking at the card, I'm looking at the image, I'm drawn to the fact that this has a lot of yellow in it, but it's the swords, and, you know, for me it looks like trickster energy or escaping or getting away with something, and then I'd want to really like just look at the book and quickly look for, you know, the Seven of Swords. So, you know, if I quickly find the right, here it is, there's a 5, okay, so here it is, you know, I've got here that this is about air, this is about the moon in Aquarius, this is the number 7, the tree of life position, then key meanings, theft and dishonesty, and then, you know, understanding the 7 of Swords. And what I love to do, and this is why I would suggest that if you have the pocket power to go with it, is to get actually 2 or 3 reference books. Is that what I might do is then go, okay, that's an interesting take on the 7 of Swords, and then I'd go into this one and go, what does she say about the 7 of Swords? So what does Joan Bunning say? And I would look at, let's say, here we've got actions, you know, running away, shirking responsibility, being a lone wolf. Opposing cards are Hierophant, Justice, reinforcing cards. So do I get, you know, the Hermit, being alone, staying away from others. So, you know, this gives me more depth in a different way. So the point I'm trying to make is that for me, I'm still focused on the card. I'm not focused on reading a novel. I really want to go back and go, okay, so she's you know, like Joan Bunning has used the words possibly, you know, being dishonest. Do I see that, you know? And so I think that's what I'm trying to emphasize. For me as a learner, I've always gone back to looking at the card, taking from it, using quick references, and then going back to the card actually. So that's my thoughts there. I also wanted to say that, you know, what to look for in a beginner book. It needs to be easy referencing. So I've mentioned that. I've mentioned keeping it simple. And then looking at, like, you know, it helps me to understand how to approach the cards, perhaps a little bit about spreads, and also about card categories. So of course the suits, the major arcana, the minor arcana, the court cards. And also the other thing that I think that is really good for me personally about the reference book, but they help, is to have a few exercises in them, you know, with questions. I think it's value for money, you know, a book which gives a few exercises. I mean, let me look at this one as well. So these have chapters, this one has chapters. This one doesn't have actually too many exercises. This doesn't have exercises in it. But I think, you know, but look, I've opened it up randomly. Right, so this is about the Strength card. And again, I'm looking at Liz Dean's The Ultimate Guide to Tarot. And she's given a lot of information. I mean, it's a value for money on this. But then she's written here, try a reading with strength, a test of courage. And so, again, I like books which have a few exercises in them because I just think it's helpful to get the brain going. So anyway, that's my other take on it. So quantity, yeah, so I've gone back and said this a few times. I would really suggest splurging on, if you can, 2 or 3 guidebooks. It doesn't have to be these 3. It can be, you know, a Mary Greer book. I think she does fantastic books. Or it could, like, you know, I think she's done how to Tarot for Yourself. That's it. I don't have that one yet, but, you know, she's done Tarot for Yourself. What a fantastic book about developing a relationship with the tarot cards. So there are authors that have just done so much. There's Journaling the Tarot, which is like a really slim book with questions. There's also Tarot Schubers, for example, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm really sorry. I think it's Brian Cormick Carr. And I was recently watching one of his videos, and at the bottom, he's got kind of like tarot coaching beginners, kind of like questions to ask yourself, a free PDF download that you can access. And so the point is, it's not so much like, you know, you have to splurge, but I would recommend having 2 or 3 reference books, because for me, you know, now that I've been about 6-7 years more around tarot cards, I think that I've realized that the core books that I've had for a long time, they're the ones that still I want to pick up, and that's because I've developed that relationship. So I would recommend it for you. And so, and then finally, sorry, I'm trying to get hairs off me, but the other thing I just want to quickly mention, and I've noticed this with tarot tubers, some of them have a really good tip, is that some decks come with companion books, and some of them have said that that companion book has become their reference book to an extent. And so I wanted to mention one, you know, a tarot deck which has a fantastic companion book, and that's the Bohemian Animal Tarot. Now, you know, these get a bit more pricier, but I think it's worth it. And the reason why I mention it is that this deck, right, so first of all, the deck is gorgeous. I won't go through the deck so much because that's not what this video is about, but here's some of the cards from that deck you can see here. So that's the Ace of Air, the Ace of Swords, or, you know, the Five of Swords, the Moon card here, Page of Water. So the cards are stunning. But more importantly, I just want to quickly mention here its guidebook, because that's the bit that I want to go back to. And the guidebook is really, really good at just, you know, here's Judgment, and it will give the animal archetype. So it will give a long reading about that, card description. So there you go, there's the basics of the card, and then questions. The only thing I have, and this is why there's a bit of a disclaimer on this, is that the guidebooks are fantastic. Like, I love this guidebook. But I would be cautious because it's very much pertinent to that pack of cards. And that would not really translate if I was to then pick up another deck. And so that's why I'm a little bit cautious about the guidebooks being a reference book. But again, I've heard some tarot tubers say that some of their favorite companion books, to a deck have become their reference books. So, you know, I need to be open to that. And so finally, as you might have all guessed, I should have said this at the beginning, is that this video is about the Rider-Waite Smith system. You can begin with the Thoth, or, you know, more the Golden Dawn decks. That's fine. I know that the RWS though is really popular as a beginner. It is for me as well. And I just want to quickly mention decks, because this is a key part of the whole my reference books. I personally have the classic RWS as one of my kind of like foundation decks. This is the deck that I learnt from. It's very popular. You've seen it all. And I actually sometimes use this deck as a palette cleanser, A, but also B, I would recommend something that's very much close to the original RWS, because I've seen some of the newer decks, and whilst they are RWS based, they're very far, sometimes they're very far from the RWS, and as a beginner that can become really confusing. So another one, if those images don't appeal to you, I'd like to recommend is the Morgan Greer. I think this is a fantastic deck. So here we have it. By the way, none of my decks most of them are not in order. Ace of Pentacles, here's the Five of Cups, here's the Chariot, here's the King of Swords. You know, it's a deck which has really wonderful color palette. It's RWS, but just the focus of the card is a little bit different. I think it's got a bit of humor to it as well. I think classic RWS has also some humor to it. So, but anyway, it's a deck where, yeah, it's something that I really recommend. If the original RWS doesn't appeal to you, which I know it doesn't to many people, it's fine. This might appeal instead, and I think this is very reasonably priced. I know in euros it's about 18 euros, which is about 15 sterling, and I don't know, 20 US dollars. So I think it's very well priced. And another one that I know some people have liked is a very soft, gentle deck, and it's an example is something like, you know, Crystal Visions. These are just examples. This is Crystal Visions, a tarot, and again, this deck, you know, it really does follow the RWS style. Here's the Page of Pentacles, you know, here's the World card, this is the Moon. The only thing is though, is that here's an example of why sometimes I'm a bit hesitant. If you look at this card, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a gorgeous card, but she's got a garden there. Now, these are, if I look at it correctly, these for me look like two wolves. The original RWS has a wolf and a dog, and the original RWS has a crab. Yeah, it's the crab. It's the Cancer crab crawling, and for me, when that's not there, if I'm learning the tarot, I actually need, for me, those symbols, because they're it's like the learner symbols, right? And so I love this deck, and I'll use this deck for sure for readings. But as a learner, it might cause some confusion because some of the original symbols are no longer there. And so, yeah, it's just something that I want to raise. But, you know, again, you know, not all decks appeal to all people. So, yeah, I was just trying to be a bit broad there. So anyway, this has been 20 minutes. It's long enough. I don't know if any of this helped you. This is my first video back, so just bear with me. I'm still trying to get my feet. And so just quickly, also tips. I just wanted to quickly mention tips before I leave. Keep a companion notebook with you, basically somewhere where you're capturing all your thoughts. If you're using like a reference guidebook, I would also suggest, if you're in that space of learning or refreshing, do a little bit every day and go back to your normal reference book every day, because there's a bond with that book, which I think is amazing. And that remember that, like, you know, that this is like we have foundation decks, these are foundation books, and so I think that it's something that we can always return to, so they're a good investment for money. So anyway, whichever book you choose, you know, if it's not any of these three, whichever one you choose, wishing you a lot of luck. Hopefully I will get back to tarot tubing a lot more. I'm thinking about weekly again, or every 5 to 10 days or something like this. Thank you for being with me, and I hope you enjoyed this, and bye for now.